The Pacific Ocean, vast, boundless, and deceptively calm. Beneath its glittering surface lies one of the most strategically contested regions on Earth. Here, across these endless blue horizons, the balance of global power is tested quietly, day after day. In a summer charged with growing tension, a British carrier strike group, led by HMS Queen Elizabeth, the pride of the Royal Navy, entered the Indo-Pacific on a mission that would soon draw the world's attention. Officially, the deployment was described as routine operations to uphold freedom of navigation, a principle long protected by the United States and its allies. Yet, behind the formal mission statements lay a deeper purpose: to project strength, reassure partners, and remind rivals that the seas remain open, not possessed. At the heart of this formidable task force, HMS Queen Elizabeth cut through the Pacific with quiet power. Her vast flight deck shimmered beneath the tropical sun. F-35B Lightning II jets lined like sentinels, symbols of stealth, speed, and precision. Surrounding her, destroyers, frigates, and supply ships maintained perfect formation. It wasn't just a show of presence, it was a message in motion that Britain and the United States remained united in defending the global maritime order. The Indo-Pacific, particularly the South China Sea, has become the crucible of 21st century geopolitics. Trillions in trade pass through its routes each year, but so too do the undercurrents of rivalry and ambition. China's expanding military presence, its artificial islands, sweeping territorial claims, and relentless shadowing of foreign vessels has turned this vital seaway into a testing ground for power and patience. For the Royal Navy, joining U.S. and Allied patrols here was both symbolic and strategic. Every maneuver carried consequence, every radar contact told a story. British commanders aboard the Queen Elizabeth understood that their every movement was being watched, not just by friends, but by those waiting for hesitation. Beijing answered swiftly. The People's Liberation Army Navy began extensive exercises near international waters. Live fire drills, anti-ship missile tests, and aggressive fighter sorties. The intent was unmistakable: to project authority and challenge Western resolve in the maritime heart of Asia. Then, in a rare alignment, Russian warships joined Chinese fleets for joint maneuvers, branded as maritime cooperation. Together, they conducted anti-submarine and missile defense drills, signaling a growing partnership aimed at countering Western influence across the Indo-Pacific. In Washington, London, and Tokyo, the message was clear. The coordination between China and Russia marked not coincidence, but strategy, a unified gesture of defiance against the established order of the open sea. Yet aboard HMS Queen Elizabeth, calm prevailed. There was no alarm, only readiness. The men and women of the Royal Navy, alongside their American and Japanese counterparts, understood that deterrence is not loud, it is steady. Peace is not passive, it is enforced through vigilance. As dusk fell across the Pacific, radar screens glowed softly. Far beyond visual range, Chinese destroyers altered headings. Russian cruisers adjusted formation. The tension was unseen but tangible. Every sailor aboard felt it, the weight of history, the pull of principle. The next 48 hours would test more than strategy. They would test resolve itself. And in those waters where power meets principle, the enduring truth remained. Peace is preserved not by silence, but by presence. The next morning, the South China Sea appeared deceptively calm. From the bridge of HMS Queen Elizabeth, the horizon shimmered beneath a pale blue haze. For the carrier strike group, this was meant to be another day of routine operations, a steady signal of presence in an increasingly unstable region. But below deck in the Combat Information Center, radar operators began to detect something unusual. A cluster of new contacts appeared, first a few, then several more, moving fast, closing from multiple headings. Their identification signals remained silent. Within minutes, confirmation arrived. Chinese and Russian warships, destroyers, frigates, and at least one missile cruiser were maneuvering directly toward the British formation. Their movement was slow, deliberate, and unmistakably intentional. Everyone aboard understood what it meant. This was no navigational coincidence. It was a calculated probe, an orchestrated test of Western resolve. From her command chair, the Queen Elizabeth's captain delivered calm, concise orders. The carrier maintained course. Escort ships HMS Diamond, HMS Kent had several auxiliary vessels tighten formation around their flagship. Communications across the fleet remained measured and disciplined. Above the deck, a thunderous roar shattered the stillness. Two F-35B Lightning II jets surged skyward, engines tearing through the humid Pacific air. They climbed sharply into the blue, establishing high overwatch positions. Their ascent was both tactical and symbolic, a statement that peace here was upheld not through aggression, but through readiness. As the Chinese and Russian vessels approached, the tension thickened like the heat in the tropical air. The foreign ships executed slow, sweeping turns just beyond the line of international boundaries, their white wakes cutting clean arcs across the sea. It was unmistakable maneuver, intimidation by presence, yet HMS Queen Elizabeth held firm. The Royal Navy's discipline, refined through decades of Allied coordination with the US Navy, was built for moments like this. The mission was unambiguous: de-escalate without retreat. To the east, American and Japanese warships engaged in nearby drills began to reposition. The USS John McCain quietly altered course, moving within mutual support range. No signal was exchanged, but the message was clear. The alliance stands as one. Through encrypted channels, Allied commanders traded brief, precise updates. Each understood the balance between restraint and deterrence. A single misstep could ignite a global crisis. A single pause could invite miscalculation. The Queen Elizabeth radar arrays spun in unbroken rhythm, tracking every vessel within range. Chinese destroyers maneuvered in tight formation, one off the carrier's bow, another shadowing her stern. Russian warships mirrored their pattern, forming an unmistakable semicircle. It wasn't chaos, it was choreography. On board, silence carried weight. Sailors spoke in short, clipped exchanges. Every transmission, every bearing mattered. Deep within the ship, weapons systems were placed on standby, armed but withheld. The objective was deterrence, not confrontation. In London and Washington, intelligence feeds streamed live from aircraft and satellites. Analysts watched the formation unfold, noting distances, headings, and the disciplined calm aboard the British flagship. This was not the first such encounter, but each demanded precision and patience. From above, the F-35 pilots confirmed the visual contact. Through their helmet displays, they observed deck crews aboard the Chinese destroyers moving briskly, missile tubes gleaming in the sunlight. Still, the jets held their altitude, maintaining perfect discipline. No dives, no flares, only vigilance. The moment stretched across the sea like a drawn breath. Three nations now faced each other in silence, each one armed, alert, and calculating. Yet amid the tension, the Western fleet stood unshaken, proving that sometimes the strongest statement of power is simply refusing to be moved. As the hours unfolded, the standoff drifted into a tense equilibrium. Both sides shifted positions with calculated precision, each observing the other in silence. The Chinese and Russian armadas sought to project dominance and coordination. Yet HMS Queen Elizabeth and her escorts remained unwavering, poised beneath the Union Jack, a steel embodiment of calm defiance. As twilight spread across the Pacific, the atmosphere grew electric. The Western Task Force, its radar displays glowing in the dim light, faced an opposing line of ships stretching toward the horizon. In that fragile balance, the world's peace hung on an invisible thread, the restraint of those standing guard amid the darkening sea. When night claimed the South China Sea, the confrontation entered its most volatile phase. The Chinese and Russian vessels formed a wide, predatory circle, while the British-led group held firm in tight defensive alignment. Navigation lights shimmered faintly across the waves, while radar pulses painted the darkness with quiet intensity. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard a Queen Elizabeth, tension thrummed beneath the surface. Every sailor understood the stakes. The West's power did not lie in aggression. It lay in precision, patience, and unity of command. From the bridge, the captain monitored a mosaic of tactical screens as calm voices relayed constant updates. Contact bearing 045, steady at 12 knots. Intercept distance 45 nautical miles. Each call met the same measured tone and response. No shouting, no panic, only the disciplined cadence of professionals trained for moments exactly like this. Far above, U.S. reconnaissance aircraft carved silent arcs through the night sky, their sensors mapping every hull and heat signature below. Data streamed back to Pacific Command in Hawaii, London's Operations Center, and Allied monitors in Tokyo. Here, knowledge itself was deterrence. Hours earlier, Washington and London had synchronized their command channels through a secure link. Both governments understood the danger of haste. Their joint directive was clear: assert freedom of navigation, while refusing to fuel escalation. In the White House Situation Room, the president listened to classified briefings confirming that Chinese and Russian ships had close to within 3 nautical miles of the British carrier. Still, no Western vessel altered course. His instruction was firm: hold your discipline. Power is restraint, not intimidation. That principle echoed across the alliance. In London, the Prime Minister reaffirmed solidarity with Washington. Together, they sent the same quiet message to allies in Japan, Australia, and Canada: remain steady. The world is watching our resolve. At sea, vigilance never waned. On HMS Diamond, positioned to starboard of the carrier, sensors detected a sharp burst of radar energy. For an instant, it seemed one of the Chinese destroyers had activated its fire control system, an unmistakable act of targeting in naval doctrine. The report came swiftly. Possible radar lock, sector 310. Maintain posture, the captain replied evenly. Do not escalate. Seconds dragged. The signal faded as quickly as it appeared. Whether a calculated probe or a technical slip, no one could say. But that moment of restraint, choosing silence over reaction, reverberated through command rooms across the globe. Meanwhile, aboard USS John S. McCain, the American commander maintained encrypted coordination with British leadership. The destroyer held its parallel track, matching speed and heading with the British formation. Every maneuver was deliberate. Every transmission carried weight. Together, the Allied ships formed not just a defensive line, but a demonstration that unity, discipline, and principle still defined the guardians of the open sea. High above the vast Pacific, 2 F-35B Lightning II jets from HMS Queen Elizabeth maintained their silent vigil, circling steadily against the faint shimmer of dawn. Through a thin haze, their pilots watched distant glimmers, Chinese aircraft weaving deliberate orbits at the edge of the engagement zone. No confrontations, no threats, only the constant awareness that one small misstep could alter the course of history. By midnight, diplomacy had fully awakened. In Washington, senior defense officials opened secured lines to their Chinese counterparts, their tone calm yet unyielding. The message carried clarity. The United States would safeguard its allies and defend free navigation wherever international law applied. Firmness, not provocation, guided every word. Across the world in London, a quiet communique left the British Embassy in Beijing. Its message mirrored the same unwavering poise. The West sought no clash, but neither would it bow to intimidation.
True strength, they knew, was found in composure. The long night crept onward. Hours slipped by like receding tides. The opposing fleets maneuvered with surgical precision, steering clear of conflict, yet refusing to yield. With each sweep of the radar, tension thinned little by little.
What began as a trial of nerve evolved into a quiet duel of endurance and restraint. As the first light broke across the Pacific horizon, the balance slowly shifted. One by one, Chinese and Russian ships eased their positions, widening the distance between formations. Their withdrawal was deliberate, measured, a silent concession that the test had run its course. The Western Task Force remained steadfast, unshaken. From the deck of HMS Queen Elizabeth, weary sailors watched the outlines of foreign vessels blur into the mist. Relief mingled with pride, not of conquest, but of discipline. They had held steady with patience and professionalism, proving that composure under strain can speak louder than command. In the aftermath, the encounter would be reviewed in classified briefings and defense circles, not as an act of aggression, but as an example of restrained power. It showed that in the modern world, true leadership lies not in force, but in the will to remain firm when tested. Under the soft glow of morning, the Pacific looked tranquil once more, hiding the unease that had churned beneath its surface only hours before. The Chinese and Russian ships drifted past the horizon, their wakes dissolving into stillness. No weapons fired, no sirens blared, yet the message carried across the seas. The Western Alliance would not yield. In Washington and London, tensions gave way to quiet relief. Diplomats and commanders recognized the real victory. Peace upheld not by chance, but by discipline, unity, and resolve. It would not fill headlines, but in strategic halls, it would be remembered as a turning point. For the sailors who endured that long, uncertain night, the meaning was unmistakable. Deterrence was not sheer might. It was the calm strength to withstand pressure without faltering. The alliance had faced its measure and prevailed with honor. In the end, it was composed courage, not confrontation, that kept freedom steady across the endless blue.